The Montreal Canadiens released some behind-the-scenes footage of their drafting process, and a lot of Habs fans are very, very upset with what they saw, including Jeff Gorton having a crazy quote implying that he may have wanted the Habs to draft MATVEI Michkov. We're going to be breaking down a lot of the key points from this video on this edition of Habs Digest. And as we get into the first topic, where they talked a bit about Jacob Fowler, a quick reminder, if you're one of the thousands of people who hasn't subscribed, do it now. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, Jesse, we kind of talked about this in yesterday's video about how Habs scouts, well, how they were treating Jacob Fowler in that interview, but we got a little bit more information, and it involved an intense, heated debate between one of their new scouts. I forget his name, I apologize, but he came over from Florida just last year. This is his first year with Montreal, and he is arguing he's mastered his position. Two of these Habs scouts were going back and forth saying, I don't know, I don't think I like him that much. He's still young, he has things to work on, he's short. The guy said, no, but he wins, he just wins. Jesse, to see this kind of heated debate in the locker room that ended with Jeff Gorton massaging the guy's shoulders, asking him if he needs a steak, what does that tell you about the Habs process? Because to me, I feel like it's good to have a lot of almost, arguments against each other.
Absolutely. And just, to having that open discussion, and Kent Hughes in this video, he says, we want to hear different people's opinions. And it seemed like they had maybe, 10 to 20 people kind of sitting around there. Like it was enough people kind of being able to voice their various opinions. So it's nice when we're kind of definitely encouraging that. We're encouraging different debates, different points of view. And just as a fan, I would say that I just like the transparency from this, just with the organization, just as a whole. They're just trying to let us know a little bit more what's going on, speaking with the general managers more, this kind of behind the scenes sort of stuff, and it kind of, when they want to be this transparent with it, it even gives me more confidence in their selections that they're making as a result.
Yeah, and I found it very interesting because as we're going to talk even more in this video, like a lot of people were very upset about this. You go on Twitter, you go pretty much anywhere. Even we got messages saying like, "What? This is ridiculous! Like, why are they arguing with each other at this process?" But like we said, Jesse, I feel like when you're so passionate about a guy that you're like, "Look, I really think this guy's good," because not every scout is scouting the same players the same amount. All you can do is look at the guys that you worked on and give your opinion to others. And I think when it came to Jacob Fowler, I think it's nothing but good that we had so many people passionately defending him. Even if we had some people saying, I'm not so sure, at the end of the day, the passionate people did the convincing. And I think that's pretty much perfect.
It's so true. And what I really liked about Fowler, what in his defense, he kind of says after getting drafted, that pressure, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
And right away, after he says, okay, I love this guy. This is a guy that's built to play in Montreal, that's really embracing it, because to play for the Canadiens, to, kind of replace the shoes of Carey Price, which, as they're saying in this video as well, is what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. You kind of need that sort of mentality, even though, Carey was very humble. He was great in a different type of way, where Cam, he's more of a straightforward, and very intense sort of player. And he wants the bright lights. He's not scared of it. And you kind of need somebody like that as well in his own version of, of what he wants, of what he needs to possibly grade in the future, of just not being scared of the situation and really wanting to rise up to it, and him being a winner, as you said, it's, just at every single level. And the fact that this is what we're looking for, he's not the biggest guy, but the fact that he's winning at every level, and they felt like they really liked that intensity. I know for Lapointe that was one of the things that he was really looking for the most, was that fire, that intensity. So I think, Jacob Fowler definitely won him over on that. Excuse me if I misspoke on it.
Cam, I think I might have said the same thing. Yeah. I can't remember. But yeah, no, like they kind of said again, he mastered his position. Other goalies may have better physical tools, but he's the only one that's mastered it. So anyway, really happy with that pick. But let's move on to Reinbacher, because that segment of the video was very, very interesting. They showed a little clip of an interview where they asked him if an old lady was at an ATM in a lineup ahead of you and someone just shoved her out of the way to get to the ATM, what would you do? He's like, well, I would say something to the guy. They're like, oh, yes, that's right, David. It was very interesting. That's the only question they showed. I'm sure that's not the only question they asked, but they go in the scout room and they praised him like crazy. They said, because everyone's talking about defense, but in his opinion, he's so special also on offense. And Marty LaPointe said, I saw the defending. He's about winning. He's not selfish. They go on to say, Jesse, that in these tough tournaments in Europe against like fully grown adults, they said he was getting pressure in his own end constantly, but he never looked out of place. He never looked scared. He never backed down from anything. He looked like one of the most mature defensemen on the ice, and the scouts really seemed to like that, and they really seemed to believe that he is the defenseman of the future.
That's true. And you got to feel like Martin St. Louis played a big factor in all of this after kind of watching this video. As you see, again, after David was drafted, his first words to David is that you're exactly what we needed. So it's very interesting to feel like Martin St. Louis, this is what he felt we needed, was that right-hand defenseman who's great defensively. But, as they're saying this, he's also very good offensively. It's just that he's so good defensively that's almost what shines through the most. But don't forget that he has a lot of offensive capabilities. So, of course, we were going back and forth before the draft quite a bit, you and I, Josh. Well, actually, we weren't. We wanted Michkov all the way.
We'll get into that in a second.
Right? But, it's interesting to see that Martin St. Louis, that's what he wanted. He wanted Reinbacher. He wanted this pick. And, Martin, for somebody that understands hockey so much, this team, you got to argue, like Kent, and Jeff, it's hard to say who really understands who needs the most, but Marty's obviously right up there, right? Maybe is the person that really understands what this team needs the most, and for him kind of feeling that's David Reinbacher and that's our selection, he definitely has to feel really happy about that.
That is a great point. Like at the end of the day, it's Marty's concepts that are getting put into play on the ice. And the Habs really lack a talented right-handed defenseman right now. I mean, yeah, we got Mailloux coming up. We got Barron, who looks solid, but David Reinbacher, a guy who has all-star potential, a guy who can be the most solid defensive and maybe like power play quarterback in the future for your defensive core. Like, they found it really hard to pass up on him. And there was a point where they said, like, Jeff Gorton was like, okay, it's between, and then they blanked out a name, and Reinbacher. And to me, it actually didn't even seem like he said Michkov. It seemed like he was about to say Leonard. But I'm not really sure. It's hard to tell. You can't really tell because they blurred out his mouth and they silenced it. But yeah, I mean, Reinbacher was their choice. They really defended him well. And honestly, if you watch this video, I think it might convince even some of you. But Jesse, like you said, we all wanted Michkov at the time. And now Reinbacher is quickly becoming maybe my favorite Hab, even though he hasn't played a game yet. But we got to get into what Jeff Gorton said in this video because, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of Habs fans, especially on Twitter, be saying like, oh, Jeff Gorton's kind of the bad influence, right? He wasn't the best at drafting in New York, this kind of thing. But Gorton was maybe the guy that wanted the Habs to take Michkov the most. Let's take a look. This is Jeff Gorton speaking. It's just like panning to other people in the room. Obviously, this is not Jeff Gorton. You pretty much have to draft or get lucky to get high-end talent now, right? And he goes on to say, like, the only, like, free agency, you can hardly even do that anymore because it's mostly aging guys, so you have to pay a lot of money, which is also amazing that they're honing in on that, and they're like, we're not going to get trapped by that. And Jeff says, I just want to make sure we're making the right decision. Kind of convincing them, like, Jesse, listen, like, there's not that many chances where you can go get a super high-end talent guy. Now, he does say chance, right? And I took that as, listen, is it worth the risk with Michkov? Clearly, they saw a big risk with Michkov here, and I guess the scouting team just decided, no, it's not worth the risk. We want to go with this defenseman, David Reinbacher, who we feel like is a sure shot.
Which for me is very interesting. And I'm so happy that they showed this clip to kind of show the other part of the story. I think as Habs fans, we kind of owed at least kind of have a discussion on this. But for the fact that, if you're kind of reading between the lines, absolutely seems like this is what Jeff Gorton is alluding to, is when you have a chance at a very talented offensive player on a team that could use much more goal scoring. Obviously, you need to contemplate that, right? So I like that they showed that side of the conversation. And for me, it's even more surprising that Jeff Gorton, of all people, would be the one to bring this up. And then for us to still pick David Reinbacher, because you have to feel just obviously, his position with the team, but obviously just watching the video, like he's the big dog when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, right? And he kind of feels he's bringing up this point about Michkov, and they're still going in the other direction. Like you said, there had to be quite a bit of other people, right? And you have to feel like Jeff Gorton was still open to the idea as well, kind of weighing it out. And definitely they're making this decision kind of as a team. It goes to show that Jeff Gorton's not the only one. Kent Hughes isn't the only one making these decisions, because if it was just them, like obviously this might be different. It's definitely a consensus pick.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see all the behind the scenes from Jeff Gorton maybe trying to convince him to take Michkov to hearing all the arguments for David Reinbacher. Seems like he was their guy from pretty early on. This video I think highlighted the fact that they clearly saw a lot of red flags in Michkov, and at the end of the day, they kind of did what Jeff Gorton suggested. We're all about the best player and who is going to be the best player. And in their mind, Jesse, that was David Reinbacher. And yeah, I highly suggest you guys, if you haven't watched the video, go watch it on the Montreal Canadiens YouTube channel. They did one last year, did one this year. Some great insight. Highly recommended. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000 subs. We really appreciate your support. I'm Josh Goss, for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.